So
Okay.
everybody probably knows about the Men in Black.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that like
Probably.
the movies with like Will Smith and everything in it, like probably that's how I at a young age like kind of first heard about aliens. So I've always liked the
Yeah.
aspect of like that part of it.
Yeah, and the music, like the song was just so fire that it was like, here come the men in black. I
Yeah.
can't remember that.
Yeah. So I have a little bit about the origin of the Men in Black, and
Ooh,
their rise in popular culture.
cool.
So they're extremely popular like figures in like UFO conspiracies, um, and kind of like encounters and stuff. They're quite popular like figures in those types of stories.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. As their name states, they are men typically who are dressed in black suits.
Well, up
And
until Tessa Thompson, what? And then
yeah,
two, three, three. Yeah.
three. Yeah. So they're typically reported to harass, threaten, or even one source said assassinate UFO witnesses in order to keep them quiet.
Oh, that's a dark side.
Yeah, I haven't heard about assassinating before.
Well,
Um,
certainly not in the Will Smith, Tommy Lee Jones movie anyway.
yeah, they have that like the pen, I think it is, that kind of stuns you.
Right, right. And I was
Yeah.
just thinking, like, I've never done a deep dive on them, so what the hell do I know?
Yeah. So the term frequently, men in black, is a term frequently used to just describe men, and this is kind of interesting, men just working for an unknown organization or any unusual, threatening, or strangely behaved individual. So it's not necessarily like an organization. It can be like anybody deems to be like unknown, kind of threatening, or like strange, which is kind of interesting.
And always scary because who the hell doesn't identify as like the weird one?
God damn it. Like, I'm not allowed out in public anymore in a black suit.
We were all a little different growing up. Like, don't take us away to
Yeah.
the padded room.
The Men in Black were popular starting actually in the 1950s and 1960s, which was kind of crazy to me that it was so early.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah,
But
there's a,
yeah, fits when you think of the Area 51 Roswell crash timeline, though.
I guess so,
Because,
yeah.
yeah, I feel like it's, because the Roswell crash is what, 1947? Question mark?
Mhm.
Yes, I believe so.
I guess so, yeah, that makes more sense now.
Yeah.
So, there's a quote from historian Aaron Golias, and he wrote during the 1970s, 1980s, and 1990s, UFO conspiracy theorists would incorporate the Men in Black into their increasingly complex and paranoid visions. End quote.
Okay.
Yeah.
What does
So
that
I
mean?
guess it started in the 50s and 60s, but it really got popular in the 70s, 80s, and 90s.
That makes sense. Like after the space race and everything to get to the
Yeah.
moon. Hmm.
So UFOologist, is that how you say that? I'm not
Yeah.
ufologist,
Yeah, that's how I've heard it said. It's a hard one because I feel
ufologist.
like it could be
Yeah,
a double O. Yeah, it's weird.
yeah, ufologist. John Keel has argued that some Men in Black encounters can be explained as people just accidentally being like miscast entirely mundane events. Um, and these events are like gained popularity through like local folklore. So actually in his 1975 book, The Mothman Prophecies, John Keel described a late night outing in 1967 in rural West Virginia where he himself was actually mistaken for a man in black while searching for I assume was a phone service or something. Because it says while searching for a phone call or a phone to call a tow truck for his vehicle that had gone off the road. So people thought he was a man in black because he was wearing a dark suit on the side of the road trying to find a phone.
Oh, and what was the year?
In 1967.
Oh, so yeah, he wouldn't have had like a car phone. He would have been looking for a pay phone or something. Yeah.
Yeah. So people thought he was one of the men in black. Like
Oh
trying to.
dear.
Yeah.
Oh.
So he believes like some of, I guess, the men in black like encounters or like quote unquote like sightings, probably more so, um, can be just like people kind of seeing what they're looking for instead of just believing, oh, that's a person like looking for a phone. They're like, oh, that must be somebody covering something up and they must work for the government and they must be suspicious.
Right. I mean, I don't know if you didn't see some alien craft or UFO before that. I don't know why you necessarily would connect it to the Men in Black.
Yeah, like why jump to that conclusion, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the Men in Black story and rise in popularity may be tracked back to one man. Um, so you probably knew about, or possibly know about this little blurb I have, but I didn't know. So the
Oh.
rise in popularity for the Men in Black can be tracked back to one man, a boy, and a dog on a boat. On June.
I don't know. It sounds kind of weird. I may need
So
more information.
yeah, this one I only have a little bit of information about.
Okay.
On June 27th in 1947, Harold Dahl is on
DAHL?
a
Like,
what?
sorry. I said, is it spelled like DAHL?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, like Roald Dahl. Yeah, Dahl.
yeah, Dahl.
Yeah.
Harold Dahl. He's on a conservation mission in the Puget Sound near the eastern shore of Washington's Maury Island.
Okay.
So he sees 6 donut-shaped, this said obstacles. I'm just going to say objects.
Tubers.
Obstacles.
People on
Yeah.
tubes. I don't know.
Yeah, they just caught a real big wave and they are now hovering about a half a mile above his boat.
Yeah, it sounds like it's near Seattle. I don't know. They're just like out for the day.
Yeah. So one of these objects moves and ends up causing like metallic debris to fall on the boat. This debris, I guess, was quite large because it ended up hitting his Harold's son Charles on the arm and also ended up injuring his dog, and the dog later died from the debris falling on it.
Oh,
Yeah.
not the pupper.
Right? Well, should we start recording our Patreon episode? I'm excited. All about aliens.
Right, aliens. Take me away.
Yeah, take me away.
Oh, just come on, guys.
Beam me up.
I don't need the probe, but I need the wisdom. No, it's funny because on Drinking the Kool-Aid, the one, I think it was Amanda, was like, I don't know. I kind of, whatever. If you got a probe and then I get to know that they're real, I'm kind of like, whatever. And I was like, yeah. Because it's just like, you're that curious, right?
How
She's like, well,
bad could the probe be?
she's like, well, as long as it, like, she's like, no, I want to clarify, like, as long as it doesn't hurt, because then, like, the other one was making fun of her. They're funny. I like them.
Yeah.
Oh, and if we get when
A
when
consensual probing.
no, but I just want to rephrase what I was going to say. When we get some Patreons, I like what they do because when I joined their Patreon, they gave me a little shout out in their Instagram stories, and they pick a little meme for each new patron, and they were like, "Thank
Oh
you for
wow.
joining our Patreon, Alana," and then it was like Frankenstein, and he was like looking around in bed, and I was like, I replied to their story, like, how did you get a picture of me in the morning? So creepy. And they were like, LMAO.
Aw.
It is. It's cute, though. They do it for all their patrons, and I like it. And I want to do that when we get some, because I know we're going to.
Yes.
It's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, welcome to the Castles and Cryptids Patreon.
Yeah.
The castles are still haunted. The cryptids are cryptic AF. The conspiracy theories are rampant
Yeah.
and deep. And we're open to all of it. And we get into some really cool stuff. That's about it.
Yeah.
Oh, which makes it so much fun because it's just special. We can just get real cray
Yeah.
cray, you know?
Yeah. I'm excited for this week's.
We've
It's
danced
something.
around aliens a lot, but not talked about any specific cases. So that's cool.
Yeah. It's definitely not my area of having a lot of knowledge about.
I
So
mean,
I had fun researching.
I feel that sometimes because you'll just start listening to something where someone else is so informed. Sometimes it's just Pat. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay. I hadn't heard that one. What did you just reference? And you're just like, what? But, and that's crazy because that leads right into, almost one of the conspiracy theories is how like a lot of things will come out right before something else happens or right before COVID
Yeah.
hit, or like, right around a time where everyone's just distracted.
Mm-hmm. They'll like let something out, be like, here's some declassified documents. Oh shit, COVID's happening. People are dying. You're gonna focus on that. Okay, aliens are real.
I like how we were so confused when I was like, wait, Tic Tac videos? And you were like, I don't know. And I was like, I don't know either. I can't remember the details. Like,
Right? Yeah.
I heard about it on Joe Rogan or whatever. But yeah, now I know. Those ones look like Tic Tacs, but they look like many different shapes.
Yeah. An array, a variety pack of Tic Tacs.
It's cool though. I don't know. So, um,
Yeah, this is our alien episode. Alien abduction, sightings, encounters,
It's our third
everything, I guess.
Patreon.
Yeah, our third episode
Yeah,
for
we're gonna
Patreon.
cover everything that aliens in this Patreon episode. Just buckle in. So it's probably gonna be about 14 hours.
It's going to be 32 parts, and
I'll play all the X Files and then go
every
on.
yeah. Oh gosh.
I mean, there's different kinds of aliens. Like, there's so much to get into. Okay, but
Yeah.
we've got some favorites. For me, mine's like a favorite because it's one of those like whistleblower cases, talking about technology and shit like that, and like what everybody knows about Area 51, but it's kind of like the origin story of Area 51 and how everybody gets to know about it.
Very
So
cool.
yeah, I don't think that gets like talked about a lot. It's just more of a given now in today's society. It's just like Little Green Men and like it's hotels named the Ailey Inn and like it's just, they make it into like a roadside attraction, but it's like people just brush off of the actual origins of it, like, oh, whatever.
Yeah, I definitely don't know any of the origins of anything about Area 51.
I mean, it's well, do you want to start with mine? I know we never know who's going first.
Yeah, we can start with yours.
It doesn't
Mine's
matter.
not like super long, but I feel like yours is probably if you have like general information about aliens and different types of aliens and that kind
I
of
do
stuff,
not.
then oh,
No,
okay.
no. I want to know what your case is. Like, is it like?
I actually have two cases.
Mm.
I have two cases and then a little thing about aliens or a segment of aliens in pop culture that is one of my favorite things about aliens.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, let's rock, paper, scissors. No, I can't see you. Telepathically. Why don't you go then?
Sure.
Okay.
Um,
I don't know, I'm just
so
excited.
yeah, I think we're equally excited for each other's segments. Um,
It's fun shit to talk about, and we never like deliberately talk about aliens.
no, not really. So my first little part is just probably how I got introduced to aliens when I was younger. Dahl was able to take pictures of the aircraft, and he ended up later showing them to his boss, Fred Chrisman, who was a reported skeptic of anything to do with aliens. After seeing the pictures, Chrisman went to look for himself and saw the strange aircraft with his own eyes.
And what did he
And
have to say?
I couldn't find anything, just that he believed. I believe.
Well, some
The
people
next,
see things and they're like, sorry, let's say some people see things and they're still like, I mean, I saw this, but I still don't know what it was. I don't believe. Like,
yeah, the reason
okay.
why I didn't dive into this one further is because um, the next morning Dahl was visited at a diner by one of the members of the Men in Black who told him in detail to Dahl himself what Dahl had seen the day before and told them that if he spoke about the event, that bad things would happen.
Ooh.
And yeah, so the reason why I didn't look into this one further is because this event was later revealed as a complete hoax. Um,
Oh.
so I didn't want to focus on it too much, but it brings in the Men in Black. And they're so his story being a hoax is one of the things that did cause the Men in Black like mystery and stuff to rise in popularity like drastically.
And sorry, his story, what was the name again? I'm sorry.
Harald Dahl. I don't think it has like a
No, I just meant his name. I just meant his name. I forgot because when you said his story, I was like, what the hell was his name again?
yeah, Harald
Okay, no, I
Dahl.
hadn't heard of that. That's
So with the rise in popularity from his story of the Men in Black, it led to I didn't even know this, but apparently the Men in Black has a comic book series.
mm,
Yeah.
cool.
Along with their blockbuster movies. The men are in black are shown as FBI agents, typically, who wear black or dark suits, sunglasses, hats. They drive black cars and typically travel in groups of two or three.
And they're otherwise known as the Blue Brothers. No. I
Yes.
was like, wow, that could totally describe them. Yeah.
Um, so they suppress UFO sightings and sometimes are told to have. This was strange. I had never heard before. So they're sometimes reported to have supernatural features such as glowing eyes or strange complexions.
Well, weren't some of the agents in like the Men in Black movies some of the aliens? Or no? What's that?
Yeah, they like the aliens would like replicate their bodies, I think. I
Yeah,
haven't watched the original ones in so long.
You should have before this episode.
Right? They're not on Netflix. Only the Men in Black International one is.
Is that the one with Tessa Thompson and Chris Hemsworth? Oh, love them.
It was good. It was such a funny movie. I liked it.
Oh, nice. Yeah, and we once went to the Men in Black ride at like I want to say Universal Studios, but that could have been Disney, I guess. Whoever owns it, whatever. And then like because we were on a trip, like a fam trip with travel agents, that's what they call it. And then they're like, you could go if you want to go under and like look at the area where the carts don't go. And it was just like it was the place where it looked like an alien was kind of like at his desk or whatever, but it was like from the behind the scenes tour, and I just like I eat that shit up. I'm like, ooh. I love
That's cool.
Yeah. Anyway.
So my first actual like case, I guess, is actually an alien abduction because I wanted to do an alien abduction.
Whoa! Our first alien abduction!
Yeah.
You get a UFO and you get a UFO. I'm so excited.
I'm hoping both of my cases you haven't heard about, because I tried to not pick ones that like showed up immediately, I guess.
I feel like a person that's been like openly looking into paranormal and shit like on a daily basis. Like, okay, all my life, really. But like in the last year, because I had more time like with my job and listening to podcasts and stuff, like especially. So I'm starting to like know things, but not it's not like I'm like every case I'm like, oh, I've heard it a million times. You know what I mean? So it's like I have no idea. Yeah.
So my first one is his name is Antonio Villaboa.
Oh, sounds exotic.
Yeah, he's from Brazil.
Okay, I was gonna guess Italian or Spanish.
Yeah. So
Antonio.
this Antonio.
I'm sorry. I'll stop.
So this takes place on October 16th in 1957.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, Antonio is a 23-year-old Brazilian farmer, and he is working kind of like during the night to avoid the hot temperatures of Brazil during the day. So that's kind of smart.
I think that's pretty common, yeah.
Yeah. So he was plowing fields near South Francisco, not San Francisco, but South Francisco. The Sallies.
Yeah, like Sao Paulo. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sao Francisco de Sal. When he saw, quote,
sorry. I'm sorry. I was gonna say I think it just means saint.
Yeah. When he saw, quote, a red star in the night sky. He says the star approached him and grew quite larger in size, and he describes it as sort of an egg-shaped aerial craft with a red light on its front and a rotating dome on the top. The craft lowered like to the ground, and before it touched down, 3, quote, legs like set down. So I guess kind of like landing legs came out and like stabilized it before it touched down. But this scared Boa, so he ran away. First he tried to get on his tractor and like drive it away, but I guess the lights in the engine died like a short distance after he started driving it.
Also, it's a tractor. No.
Yeah, right? It's not going to go very fast.
It's that scene in Austin Powers when he's going to steamroll somebody, but he's going so slow. Get out of the way! Get out of the way! It's just like, ah, no! Just standing there.
Right?
Oh my god.
Ridiculous. I
Yeah.
always love that. Or like in my favorites in Deadpool or I think it's in Deadpool when the guy's crawling away and he's like bleeding on the ice rink and Deadpool's like driving the Zamboni behind him. And it's like, oh really? Like,
Oh yeah. Death by
yeah,
Zamboni. Oh my god, that'd be slow.
yeah, right. Um,
What's that?
so
Okay. Sorry.
after Boa's tractor like died, he got out of the tractor and he just started running as fast as he could on foot. He
Oh.
was seized pretty quickly by a 1.5 meter or about 5 foot tall humanoid who he said was wearing gray coveralls and a helmet. They had small blue eyes and spoke in like barks and like yelps.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So right after he was like, I guess, attacked or I guess captured, three other beings joined the first one, and together the four of them dragged Boa inside their aircraft. Dun dun dun.
That's like relatively violent.
Yeah.
They're usually just like,
So
let me like calmly take you in here, take your memories away because I'm gonna probe you a little bit, you know.
oh, they do more than probe him. This is
Oh,
like
okay.
so weird. This guy. Um,
Okay.
so once inside the craft, he was stripped down and covered in a strange gel-like substance from head to toe. Um,
Oh,
yeah, after he was all oiled up, he was led into a semicircular room. And when being like taken into the room, he noticed that the doorway to the room had like strange red symbols written all over the top of the doorway.
okay.
I'm not quite sure how, but Boa memorized the symbols and later was able to draw them for investigators.
I have
Which,
no idea. I just realized I was doing such a frowny face though that I have to stop or I'm gonna get wrinkles because I'm so confused.
right. Um, so, well, in this room, Boa, they apparently like took a blood sample from his chin, which seems the most comfortable place to have a blood sample taken from, your chin.
Also, he's like seems very awake out of all the cases I've ever like heard about. I don't
Yeah,
know.
he says he like in extreme vivid detail remembers every like millisecond of everything that ever happened to him and is like adamant for the rest of his life that all of this is true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So after they took a blood sample from his chin, he was taken into a third room and then he was left alone for about half an hour. And sometime during this half an hour, a unknown gas was pumped into the room, which caused Boa to become violently ill. So he was like nauseous, throwing up, um, becoming like very incoherent.
It's not such a spa day anymore.
No,
Okay. Torture chamber.
yeah. Now we get to the weirdest torture ever. um, so shortly after this, Boa was joined in the room by a female humanoid. And the female was very attractive, he noted, and she was completely naked.
Oh, and anatomically correct?
I assume so. His own
Humanoid.
yeah, how he describes her is 5 foot tall with a pointed chin and large blue cat-like eyes. I assume he means like the like slanted eyes. She had
He's got
long
cat
white
eyes.
hair. Yeah,
Cat pupils, like Magnus from Shadowhunters.
yeah.
No, I don't know.
So she apparently had like long white hair, like a platinum blonde white. And Boa was apparently immediately attracted to the humanoid, and the two had sexual intercourse. because, it's an alien. So,
Bow chicka bow wow. It's not the first alien sex encounter I've heard. Can you believe?
no, right?
But I'm always on board to hear more.
Right. He's doing the probing this time. Dun, dun.
Maybe next
had
time,
to.
other way around.
Oh
my god.
Yeah. So,
oh my god, no,
but
it's like Guardians of the Galaxy 3, right? When he's going to all the different planets and he's all, Brandy, you a fine girl. What a good one. And he's just mating with everyone, everywhere in the whole galaxy, remember?
oh yeah.
Chris
What's his
Pratt's dad?
face?
Yeah, Ego. Ego. He is
Yeah, I
big
was
ego.
like his father. His father was just mating with everybody, yeah.
Ego, yeah.
So Boa does remark that even though they had intercourse, she did not kiss him on the mouth. She refused to, and instead nipped him in the chin.
Sounds like a prostitute. I'm sorry. Sex worker.
Once done, apparently the humanoid female smiled at Boa and rubbed her belly and gestured upwards. Because remember, I guess at this point, it wasn't really stated, but I guess at this point, like, the aircraft was still on the ground. It hadn't, like, taken him up or anything. Like, it was still on the ground. So she's rubbing her belly and she's pointing upwards. So Boa interpreted this to mean that she was now magically pregnant and was telling him that she was going to raise their child in outer space.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Honestly, sorry, that just creeped me out because it reminded me of something I heard earlier about stories where a woman, like, in a dream had sex with, what's it called when it's a man? Incubus? Succubus? Incubus? And whatever it was like they were like pregnant. Like, oh, I can't even. I gotta tell. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to find you the episode I'm talking about and like so I can let people know because I just sound crazy. But yeah, it was like they had sex with a person, but it was like 2 weeks after the encounter with the demon thing. And then when they got checked out, they were like, "You're about 6 weeks pregnant." And they were like, "That's not possible. I had sex like 4 weeks ago." And they were like, "No, you're like pregnant." And that was when the incubus or thing had visited her. And I was like, that is fucking scary as shit.
That's crazy.
Right? I'm sorry. Things I learned this week.
The more you know.
You would so love drinking the Kool-Aid though, because the one girl will be like, I was on the internet, and they're like, and the other girl's like Amanda will be like, what did you learn, Cassidy?
That sounds great.
No.
So apparently after this, he said that the female seemed happy that the quote task was over, and this made him extremely angry. And he said he felt like a quote like horse stallion that had been used for the sake of the humanoids. So, yeah, right.
Yeah.
I'm a stallion. Oh.
Is that what gets bred, a stallion? I guess it does. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then all the mares.
Yeah. So he was at this point given back his clothing. He was taken. This is nice of them. He was taken on a tour of the ship. So.
Oh, la-di-da.
Yeah, here's a whole tour. Here's the kitchen. Here's the bathroom. Yeah. Like,
oh my god, but it'd be cool because like nobody seems to know what they do with any of that shit in there. So that would be like really valuable information, I feel like.
right.
Yeah.
So during this tour, he tried to steal a clock-like device that he found to try and use it as proof of the encounter or event. But he was caught by the humanoids and it was taken away.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Luckily, like nothing happened. He was just escorted off the ship and he watched it glow really bright as it took off. He pretty much just walked home and
I'm sorry.
yeah.
Rihanna.
Diamond.
Yeah. It came into me. Oh my god, did I just say it came into me? Came to me all of a sudden.
Thinking too much about the alien probing.
I know! I also had a really scary, weird, kind of sexual nightmare last night. So, okay, I'm in a very weird place right now.
Was it all our talk about Dexter last week?
Well, I swear like 3 days ago or something, it was like a scary dream that my dog was gonna get like hurt. Like Fenrir had like his eyeball was like falling out of its socket. I can't even talk about it. Like, that shit like really. I don't like eyeball gore. Okay, it grosses me out, and so I think that was maybe why I saw that. But anyway, I can't fall down that rabbit hole right now. Sorry.
So he watched the ship glow bright like a diamond and take off. He returned home and apparently discovered that about 4 hours had passed.
Ooh.
Yeah. So yeah, this is the most like interesting part. So following the event, Boa claimed that he suffered from nausea and weakness, headaches, and he had lesions that would randomly appear on his skin without any sort of like trauma or even like bruising around the area.
Just randomly?
Yeah. He said he contacted a journalist, Jose Martins, after he found an ad from the journalist looking for like people with UFO stories and like encounters or experiences. So after the journalist Martins talked to Boa, Martins referred Boa to a Dr. Olavo Fuentes of the National School of Medicine in Brazil. And Fuentes was in contact with the American UFO Research Group, APRO, the Aerial Phenomena Research Organization.
Ooh.
Yeah. So Fuentes examined Boa and said that he had been exposed to a large dose of radiation from some source and now suffered from mild radiation sickness.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So I'm not sure where this like writer comes from because it's not Martins, the journalist that Boa talked to, but there's a writer, Terry Melanson, who states among Boa's symptoms were pains throughout the body, nausea, headaches, loss of appetite. Pardon me, I just burped.
Nausea, loss of gas.
Yeah. Ceaselessly burning sensation in the eyes.
Ew.
Cutaneous lesions at the slightest of light bruising, which went on appearing for months, looking like small reddish nodules, harder than the skin around them, and protuberant, I don't know, painful when touched, each with a small central orifice, yielding a yellowish thin, waterish, a yellowish thin waterish discharge. Wow, that sentence was hard to get out.
Am I reading from Dr. Pimple Popper?
Oh god, no. I hate that. I can't even read like the headlines of any of those videos.
I know. I was like, what is this cutaneous popping?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
The skin surrounding the wounds presented a hyperchromatic violet tinged area.
What the fuck? So they were purple.
Yeah.
Oh.
So as I said, Boa was able to recall all the events without the need of hypnotic regression. So he didn't need to be put under or hypnotized or anything to recall all of these events in great detail. And funny enough, Boa's experience was actually 4 years before the popular American UFO abductions of Barney and Betty Hill in 1961.
First major abduction. That's the one you hear about.
Yeah, in the US.
Yeah, but I was gonna say like almost widely known as like the first abduction story,
Right?
but that's probably
Yeah.
because we live in the West. And yeah.
And Brazil doesn't exist. No.
Well, exactly. I was like, actually, now that I think about it, it's just because it's like, have I heard that's the first one in North America? Or, yeah, did I just assume it was the world? Yeah.
So the interesting thing though, like this guy isn't crazy. He eventually became a lawyer. So the guy wasn't like crazy. He wasn't out to lunch. Like he was a farmer. They did say like at the time, people reporting that he was a farmer was kind of misleading because you'd assume he'd be like pretty uneducated, but he was actually came from a very well-off family, even though they were farmers.
Also, woof, come on. That's a kind
Yeah.
of an insult to farmers. Like,
Yeah, well, it was like something that was like reported when they kept saying, "Oh, he's a farmer, all that kind of
that's
stuff."
what they like to do. Exactly. Try and discredit
Yeah,
people. And when you said
well,
he's
because they were trying to say like he'd be trying to do it kind of to get like money and stuff, and they're like, he didn't need money.
That's what they always say. That's what they always
Yeah.
say, even if they have no proof that the person has made money off of it. And when you say he was a lawyer, that immediately made me think of Andrew Basiago from our first Patreon episode. And I was like, he's a fucking lawyer.
Yeah.
Not that we don't know lawyers can spin tales, but they obviously have to be educated like a doctor or, any other like scientist, mathematician, whatever.
Yeah, have a very high like IQ and brain capacity to like
Sure.
retain the amount of knowledge they're required to know.
They're edumacated, okay?
Yeah, they're SMRT.
Yeah. This
So as
one
I said,
is your case almost because this recording.
yeah, I just have a sentence left.
Okay. Sorry. I was okay.
So as I said, he became a lawyer. He got married and had 4 kids. And he, throughout the rest of his life, he stuck to his story about the abduction being true until he died on January 17th of 1991. So for like almost 40 years, he stuck to this being true.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And
Why would
that's
he change it? Mm-hmm.
yeah. So that's my only actual alien abduction, but I have another case.
Woo! Hello. We're back.
Oh, ready for another spooky alien encounter.
Oh, sorry. I was like, what? Okay. Aliens. Crop circles?
No.
Okay.
Mine is this one was like the one I was most excited about, but none of my things were really enough to do a whole segment about. That's why I did 3 things.
Yeah, it can be hard because like sometimes it'll be a sentence or two, but it's so interesting that you're like, can I make it fit?
Can I fill an hour with this?
You don't have to fill an hour.
I know, but I don't want it to be like 10 minutes long.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So this has a bunch of names in it that I will attempt to pronounce. But it takes place in Spain.
Ah.
Um,
The
yeah,
names in Spain rely mainly on the plane. No.
yeah. So this is called the Manassas. It's a name of an airline, or no, a name of an airport. The Manassas UFO incident.
Ooh. Sorry. Airport had my attention.
Yeah.
Nice.
So on November 11th, 1979, commercial flight of the Spanish airline company. They had a name in Spanish that I redacted. I'm not going to attempt to pronounce it, but it's a Spanish airline company.
Redacted. Wait. Okay, I'm sorry. Was I was in travel, so that's the only reason I want to pry further. Like, was it spelled like in English though? Like, what do you know what the spelling was?
It was pretty much just like airport of like Spain.
Oh,
Like it was, yeah,
Airport de la España.
pretty much, yeah.
I'm sorry. I get so curious when people are like, whatever, it doesn't matter. I'm like, yes, it does. Okay, okay.
So it's a airline company, and the flight we're talking about had 109 passengers when it was forced to make an emergency landing in Valencia, Spain.
Okay.
So it's a TAE Super Caravelle plane.
Oh, so you have that
Um,
information? No. I'm just kidding.
yes, I do.
I don't know what that is, and I was in travel, so continue. Probably a big plane.
Yeah. Um, it was so the flight we're talking about was flight KJ297,
Mm-hmm.
and it had taken off from Salzburg, Austria, and it had just made a refueling stop on the island of Mallorca before
Mallorca, I believe. Because
Mallorca. Okay.
yeah, because sometimes in Spanish the two L's is pronounced like a Y. Yeah.
Oh, okay. The
Yeah.
island of Majorca before setting off towards Las Palmas.
Oh, okay. That sounds right. In Spain.
So yeah, so it left Austria, it's heading back towards Spain.
Mm-hmm.
And so halfway through the flight at approximately 23:05 hours or
Oh,
11:05
right.
at night, the flight mechanic warned the rest of the crew that there was two red lights approaching.
Okay.
So the pilot, Francisco Javier Lerdo de Tejada,
Okay.
long name, and his
Oh,
crew
that's what
noted
you
also,
said. Right.
pardon?
No, I said that's what you said because the first thing I heard
Yeah.
you say after it like glitched out for a second was long name.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I'm back on
So
track.
the pilot and his
Yeah.
crew, after being warned, they also noticed the set of red lights approaching the plane, and it was approaching extremely fast.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And it appeared to be on a collision course for the flight.
Oh
The
no.
Yeah, the plane was flying at 23,000 feet above the Mediterranean Sea, and they were located just southwest of Ibiza Island or Ibiza. Ibiza.
Right. I'm like, I'll say Ibiza. I don't want to feel like an asshole. No.
Right. So I said both.
Cover your bases, right? That's
Yeah.
crazy though.
That's why I
So,
wanted to do this one, but I couldn't stretch it out to a whole thing. But I feel like it's the most like grounded of like realistically, there's so many people involved in this and everything. You'll find out. It gets crazy.
no. But what you're saying is the all the passengers on this flight can see it as well? or just like the pilots can see these red lights or
The
whatever?
pilots can, the crew can, so I assume the passengers can through the windows. And there's
Right. They wouldn't have as
109
good
passengers.
of a view. Sorry. They wouldn't have as good of a view, but yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So they're flying 23,000 feet above the Mediterranean Sea, southwest of Ibiza Island. The crew became alarmed, and the captain requested information for the red lights. So he contacted both the military radar of Madrid and
Mm-hmm.
the flight control center in Barcelona, and neither of these organizations could provide any explanation for the red lights. They were told by them that there was no scheduled flights other than their own that night in that area. So they should have been alone.
Right. That tracks because it's aliens. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Continue.
The red lights were described as two powerful red light sources that had no apparent solid body to be sustained in. So they couldn't like tell what they were coming from. They just seemed to be like glowing ball.
Right.
To avoid the red lights colliding with the plane, the pilot drastically changed altitude, but the lights ended up following them and remained about a half a kilometer away from the plane.
Oh no.
At this
I
point, the
don't think
lights,
they can hit you, buddy, if they haven't yet. They
yeah,
could hit you if they wanted to.
yeah. So
I'll
with
just
the
be
light,
polite and I'll get over to this lane just in case.
right? That's pretty much what he tried to do.
I wish everyone in
Um,
Edmonton drove like that, but they don't.
no,
Instead, they're like, "Oh yeah, I can make it out in front of you. It's not cutting you off if I get out there, and then you have to slow down a bit."
there's still 2 inches of space. You'll be fine.
Like, fuck
And then it's
off,
all,
everybody! Stop getting
and
in
then
my
it's all,
lane.
I can't believe you rear-ended me. Weren't you paying attention? No, you just cut me off, asshole. Like,
Ugh, if it's not friggin' winter season, it's construction season here. I swear.
yeah.
I just gotta get out on the open road, man. Yeah. No wonder
So
these
with
aliens like go for joyrides.
yeah. So
Yeah.
the lights were violating all aerial like safety rules, and the plane was unable to make evasive maneuvers to avoid the object because it's a commercial flight. So
Oh,
the pilot was forced to make the decision to make an emergency landing at the Manises airport at 23:45 hours or 11:45
wow.
p.m., marking the first time in history a commercial flight was forced to make an emergency landing because of a UFO.
What?
Yeah,
I've never heard that.
right. That's why I was like, I love this. I love this. Like,
Because
we're not done yet.
well, and most, that's probably not the first time, but like people won't admit it, right? It's like, holy shit.
Yeah. So
Oh,
the flight crew reported the lights apparently just right before they ended up making their emergency landing at the airport, the lights like stopped following them just before landing.
yeah.
Um, but it is stated, however, that new UFO signals showed up on the radar, and this is crazy, but each with an estimated diameter of 200 meters. So I tried looking up the wingspan of this commercial plane, which was the Super Caravelle plane. I couldn't find the exact model number, so I looked up on average what the wingspan of commercial planes are, like typically,
Wait,
and
what commercial plane?
it's called a Super Caravelle.
Okay, but I thought we were seeing lights and then I missed something. And now we're looking for this type of plane. Like I must have missed something. I'm sorry.
No, I said they're doing the lights, but 3 new UFO signals showed up on the radar that had an estimated diameter of 200 meters. And the wingspan of typical commercial like planes, like the one that was flying that day, are 40 to 50 meters.
Oh.
And the UFO ones that were showing up on the radar were 200 meters across. And there were 3 of them. So they're like 4 times the size of this flight, each of them.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I understand.
So the objects were seen by several witnesses, with one of the UFO objects passing extremely close to the airport runway. So close, in fact, that emergency lights were lit by the ground runway crew because they thought the object was an unregistered plane that was experiencing flight difficulties and was attempting to make an emergency landing.
Okay.
So now you have, not only are like the people on the plane making an emergency landing, but now you have the ground crew at the airport that also are seeing these lights and think it's like an unidentified like plane that's trying to make an emergency landing along with the plane that's actually making an emergency landing. So the lights the ground crew said were shining like brighter than any others, like any sort of light source in the sky. These red lights were brighter. So during this time, because the object, they weren't able to make any sort of, or they made attempts to communicate with it, but they weren't receiving anything back. A Mirage F-1 fighter ended up taking off from a nearby air base and was ordered to track down the objects at 40 minutes into November 12th. So about an hour after they made their emergency landing, this fighter like took off in pursuit of the lights.
Okay.
The pilot was with the Spanish Air Force. His name's Captain Fernando Camara, and he had apparently to increase his speed to Mach 1.4 just to be able to get a visual contact with what he said was truncated cone shape displaying a changing bright color. So pretty much like flying cones in the sky that were like alternating colors.
Okay. So they're having fireworks, or this is coming off the vehicle?
Yeah, it must be coming off of the vehicle.
Okay.
Despite his efforts, the object quickly disappeared from sight. And then right after that one disappeared, he was informed that a new object was appearing on the radar near the Sanguito, Valencia.
Okay.
So one disappears, and then he's like, hears on there that like on his radio, oh, we just spotted a new one. Like, so he went in pursuit of that one, and when he got close enough to that object, the object accelerated again and disappeared. After this one left, the UFO seemed to respond to his attempts at communication. The fighter's avionics equipment ended up scrambling, and the electronic flight systems were all jammed on board the fighter. And the onboard alert system warned Captain Camara that he was being locked on by a continuous wave missile radar. So like it was going to like send a missile after him.
Oh no. What the fuck?
Yeah, like it was pretty much like he was targeted and like locked in their sights to be attacked. That's what his like onboard alert systems were warning, that he was locked in by a target. So this was the third attempt at contact. So he's pretty much flying with this like going off, this alert. the UFO once again disappeared. This time it was heading for Africa. He ended up following it for another hour and a half in pursuit, but he was forced to return to the Air Force Base because he was low on fuel. So he couldn't keep following it. So he ended up, quote, returning with no results. And he returned to the base at 2:07 hours. So at like just after 2 a.m. And this Meneses airport like sighting, it's documented as, is the most famous UFO sighting in Spain.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was like kind of interesting when I like came across it. I was like, this seems crazy because you have like the army in Spain going after it, sending fighter jets. You have commercial airline like emergency landing. You have the ground crew at the airport like interacting as well.
Well, that's just it. It's just like I guess most cases people just think they can dismiss. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, I think of The Simpsons because literally Kang and Kodos, the tentacled aliens, they like after they abduct Homer, they just like have these little spouts that come out and they just spray him with rum. And it's just like such a perfect like metaphor
Oh
for
yeah.
everybody just being like, oh, anyone that believes in aliens or conspiracy theories is just like a fucking hick idiot. You know what I mean? It's just
Yeah.
like, go see who will believe you now, Rummy. Because
Right?
you're like, oh, it's so true though. Because that's
So
like that's insane. That's a lot of witnesses.
yeah. So I have a little thing about what possible explanations they could have. It's really short.
So for
So
that case,
yeah,
okay.
which is kind of cool. The event had such a large public impact. Again, this was in 1979. So it had such a large public impact.
Yeah.
That in 1980 it reached the Spanish Parliament, and the High Chamber representative Enrique Mujica Herzog. He publicly requested an official explanation for this incident, but he refused to say that but the UFO sighting theory was dismissed, and the event was attributed to as a series of freak optical illusions.
Okay, buddy. Sure, sure,
Right.
sure. What are you going to tell yourself? My God.
Right. The
Well,
full
honestly.
report,
Yeah.
which was declassified by the Spanish Air Force in August of 1994, states that the pilot and crew of flight KJ297 and the ground crew of the Meneses Airport and the Air Force captain Camara might have been misled by, quote, flashes emitted from a distant chemical industry complex, end
Oh,
quote.
may they have.
Yeah, all three
Whatever.
separate groups of individuals.
Oh, come on.
This distant chemical industry complex was about 100 miles away from the Meneses airport. And it also says, or it states that, quote, and some stars and planets. So they were misled by flashes from a distant chemical industry complex and some stars and planets.
You know, just a solar system or two.
Right. You ain't never
No
seen a
big deal.
star before.
Bro.
So this explanation is greatly debated and pretty much rejected 100% by everybody involved, but it remains as the only non-UFO related explanation to date.
Well, sorry, sometimes UFO explanations just cover all the bases. And don't they simplest explanation is like the most likely one.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Um,
Yeah.
my last little part is just that the on-flight difficulties that were experienced by the fighter jet were not mentioned to the public at all, and weren't mentioned in the public release. The electronic system failure on board the Mirage F1 could nevertheless be explained by the fact that the United States Sixth Fleet was stationed in the area, and they were actually at the time making use of a powerful electronic warfare equipment while awaiting the outcome of the Iran hostage crisis going on at the time. However, even this explanation is not accepted by the F1 combat pilot, Fernando Camara, and he rejected this possibility, saying that the Sixth Fleet was way too far away. And furthermore, his systems got jammed when he tried to block the UFO with an IR missile. So his system got jammed when he pretty much tried to lock on to them with a missile.
Okay, so he's saying that he thinks that means it's not a US cover-up?
Yeah.
Oh.
He doesn't think what the US was doing at the time in the area. He doesn't think that was impacting it at all. He thinks it is the UFO.
Now I'm torn. Because UFO cover-up, or sorry, I should say US government cover-up on one hand.
Yeah.
I'm inclined to believe everything is a cover-up versus not with them. But then it's like, on the other hand, wait, sorry.
But that doesn't even if it's a US government cover-up for his equipment malfunctions, that doesn't explain the red lights following the commercial airliner for 40 minutes beforehand. Right?
Like, basically, this is just like so much UFO activity that no one can cover up, and that's what makes it so cool. It's so crazy. Then I'm like, why have I not heard of it?
Right?
Weird.
I was looking up and there was like so many cases, and then I saw this one and it was like, yeah, read about the like Spanish airline that was like forced to make an emergency landing with 109 witnesses, and I was like, are you serious? Like,
I'm giving you a clap because that was like amazing. Like, I've been like listening to like cool podcasts that cover conspiracy theories, like Hello Drinking the Kool-Aid, like loving them, but I'm like, I've never heard this ever.
Right? Yeah, I thought it'd be cool. I thought it was kind of cool that one of mine was in Brazil and then another one of mine was in Spain. Because I'm like, I feel like that's why maybe people haven't heard it as much.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, but I really had fun researching them.
You broke my brain.
Thank you.
Well, that's gonna be great because if I have to tell my case, then my brain's just like, I don't know what to do anymore.
Now you get to blow my mind.
Okay. Okay, well, I'm gonna need a refill then. That was crazy. Were you talking to your cat?
Oh, no.
Oh my God.
I went to get my chapstick.
Well, I remember hearing you say that, but then, oh, never mind. Rain's in her room, like, chatting and giggling and stuff. And I was like, I heard voices from up here, but it's probably just Rain. It's always Rain.
Oh.
She's, like, literally always on a call with her friends on Discord, like, talking and giggling and being a teenager. So,
That's what I used to do, yeah.
I don't know. I've always had phone anxiety. My whole family. No one's been a phone person. I don't know. It's so weird.
I'm fine with like, well, when I was younger, I used to have to like pace or something. If I just sit and do nothing while I'm on the phone, I like 100% zone out to what people are saying.
Right? Well, that's the problem with
Yeah.
the phone. And sometimes I have that problem when trying to do like the podcasting where you're like, I can't really do anything else, but like, you know how like sometimes Lucy will like color or something? I'm like, sometimes I need something a little bit like I'll just doodle mindlessly. So like,
Yeah.
because like I don't want to do something, I'm just easily distracted, but whatever. It's
Yeah, I'm
hard.
like otherwise I will zone out. Yeah.
People, they
I
just don't
have the
know.
same
You guys
thing.
don't know what we go through for you. You just don't know.
Right? Yeah.
The struggle is real. I'm
Yeah.
telling you. Honestly, like, yeah. I did a little bit of extra research for this one, but I'd already heard I had watched and I say watched because I did watch. Paddle put Joe Rogan on his Xbox, like, and then at home on our big TV. And so
Yeah.
they actually, well, so for his, he'll have like a video with it, and it's like literally the first time I've ever seen podcasting, I think, because Pat would be watching like interviews that Joe would do, and they're like, you have the video component, and like honestly, we love that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I joined Wine and Crimes Patreon too, though, because you start into something free, listening to it, and you're like, okay, I decide if I want to like maybe pay for this or not or whatever. And like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's nice listening to his and you can watch them. So I've seen Bob Lazar on Joe Rogan, and that's what I'm talking about today is Bob Lazar. So buckle up if you don't know anything about him, I guess.
Is that I have to clarify, is he that crazy guy that goes aliens with that hair and the meme? Is that him?
If you're referring to the one who currently holds our image place for our bloopers episodes, who is from the Ancient
Yes.
Alien. No, that's Giorgio Tsoukalos. He's a Greek
Okay.
alien enthusiast investigator.
Okay.
Oh, so that's fun. So this guy, like, I mostly learned about, to be honest, through Pat, like my man, my old ball and chain. He's, of course, we're like both into some of this different, conspiracy theorists and whatever shit, and it's interesting to speculate about. But
It's fun.
well, and I'm sorry, at this point I shouldn't even put aliens in a conspiracy theorist kind of frame because most scientists believe that it would be arrogant to think that there's not extraterrestrial life somewhere, right?
Yeah, Earth isn't the only special planet out there just because
Yeah.
like if we have evolution and things that have evolved and stuff, what's not like I know they probably won't be like humanoid looking like things because
Humanoid.
most planets have like don't have the same atmosphere or like
But a lot of times,
elements.
well, like the grays, that's the main, when people picture an alien, it's like the big head, the big eyes, that's considered it's called the grays, which I may or may
Oh,
not
okay.
have learned about in, yeah, the X-Files and shit, but like at the same time, fuck, what was I gonna say? I was like, it doesn't mean like that's the only kind or,
Yeah,
whatever. Like, I don't know. Sorry. I kind of lost my train of thought there. I was like, what? It's
like
so, yeah, it's definitely like most scholars and scientists agree that it'd be just inconceivable and improbable to think that we would be the only life that has ever existed or, would exist in space. It's
yeah.
just stupid. Hmm.
Like my personal thing I like to picture when I think about aliens is
Yeah.
um the aliens from Mars Attacks that are just giant brains.
Oh my God. Is that the one with like David Duchovny?
I'm not sure. I haven't seen it since I was really young.
Oh my
It's
God.
the um
Are they in
oh
like
my god.
yellow like raincoats or something? Or is that not a thing?
I think so.
Oh, clearly I may have
Yeah.
to watch it to know what you're talking about. I'm sorry.
It's funny. They just pretty much look like googly eyes, like weird skeleton face googly eyes with brains inside of tanks.
There's some classics though, like you got
Yeah.
Coneheads where they literally look like
Yeah.
Coneheads, and you get some amazing actors just like like they're. It's so funny to imagine what we could look like or the aliens.
Yeah.
Um, so this one, my lesson today is on Bob Lazar. And this man, Robert Scott Lazar, was born on January 26, 1959, in Coral Gables, Florida. He's a Florida man. Don't hold that against him. You know all those memes. Florida man smacks
Florida
alligator
man
at Wendy.
discovers aliens.
Yeah. And I was kind of kicking back to like when I listened to And That's Why We Drink, when I was like looked up that January 26th birthday meant he was an Aquarius. I was like, not that it matters, but people born under this sign tend to be progressive, independent, intelligent, unique, and idealistic. And I was like, that seems to fit.
Okay.
So he was also interested in technology from the time he was a little lad. He once built a jet car that could go up to 200 miles per hour. And
Oh wow.
yeah, so very smart, right?
Yeah.
And that actually led him to one of his first jobs, or the job we're going to talk about, I should say. So I think we talked about this man in the first one, the first Patreon with Project Pegasus, because Ed Teller was the Hungarian American physicist, but he didn't like to be known as this, but he was known as the father of the atomic bomb. So
Oh, okay.
I kind of
Yeah,
hate to
you
reference him
mentioned
as
him.
that. Yeah, like he didn't like it, but he was really smart and he helped with that, so that's what he's known as, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, that the reason he's kind of cool in this story, or factors in, is that I guess he was giving a lecture at Los Alamos. This is all going to occur in like California, so lots of Spanish sounding names as well, like yours.
Yeah.
And it's like in the 80s. So like 1982, Dr. Edward Teller gives a lecture, and Bob Lazar says that he or claims to have met him prior to the talk, as Edward Teller was reading Sunday's newspaper, and the story was about Bob Lazar and his jet car that he made, which I know we all kind of canceled Bill Cosby, but he used to have a skit on his like audio tapes or stand-up comedian sets or whatever, where the like a friend of his put like an airplane type engine into a regular car, and it was like he's like whoomp whoomp, like describing how it
Oh my
sounds
God.
down the street. It was, I don't know, like I'm sad that he was such a perv because he was so funny. That's all I'm gonna
Yeah.
say. um so back to Bob Lazar. So this chance meeting with this Dr. Edward Teller, father of the atomic bomb, seems to have met or led to his hiring at a job at the Los Alamos National Laboratory. So he worked as a physicist there in the 80s, like very smart nuclear physicist. Can't
Yeah.
express enough. He's a smart guy. But he was hired to work at a place called S4, a secret government base near and or part of the base of, sorry, I'm saying this wrong. It's like a part of Area 51 overall. You know what I mean? You know, there's like
Okay.
Vancouver and Greater Vancouver. It's like, yeah, it's part of Area 51, but it's not on the main base. It's like off to the side, is how he described it, basically.
So, like, one of the buildings there.
Yeah, or possibly even like a little bit, farther away from the main complex even. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, that's why it's got this name like S4. It's not just Area 51.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then it's funny because I don't know much about this until after, obviously, because I'm born in 88, but in May of 1989, he gave basically an explosive interview about his work there at the complex. And at this point in this initial interview, he kept his identity hidden. So it wasn't like he was like, I'm Bob Lazar, this is what I'm working for, and this is who I'm working for, and what we're doing, and what we're doing on these UFOs and stuff. He was like, when they like kind of black you out when you're
Yeah.
with a identity. Yeah, it's
This
like,
is my silhouette. My
yeah.
voice sounds weird.
I feel like they maybe used his real voice, but everything else was, kind of like blacked out.
Okay.
But ever since this initial interview, he's basically been ridiculed and hounded in the media in the 32 years since he gave this first interview, which kind of sucks for him.
Wow.
Yeah. He claims to have been hired to develop advanced propulsion engines. Sorry, I just sat up. Can you hear me now? So he says he was like stunned when a few days after he started, he was giving a quote briefing book that outlines extraterrestrial spaceships and bodies, end quote.
Okay. Here's a pamphlet.
Here's your orientation pamphlet. Yeah. All right, sorry. They wanted Bob to reverse engineer the ships and their technology. Or I shouldn't say ships. As far as I know, he only worked on the one ship. But did I just say a minute ago that he said there was about 9? Or have I not got to that yet?
I don't think so.
I'm sorry. I'm sure I have it in there, but there's about 9.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so, okay. The one piece that's probably been one of the more controversial claims from Lazar is that of a previously unknown and undiscovered substance that was dubbed Element 115. So Bob was in his initial interview in the 80s, I'm sorry, 1989, like I was born in 88, so it's very easy for me to comprehend that this was like 30 years ago. It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
And he talked about this substance, Element 115, and it's like, okay, well, like basically nowadays they're like, oh yeah, we know about this substance, and like I think I'll get into it a little bit more, but it's like we saw them synthesize it on their alien crafts, but we didn't think we could ever synthesize it or whatever because it was so volatile. So,
Okay.
and at the time he talked about Element 115, it hadn't been discovered. So we'll get to that. But that is one of those things that's like, whether you believe his story or not, it's like, how is that possible kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he had said all these things in this interview, like the spacecrafts use anti-gravity cylinders underneath the ship. And I say underneath, but like the cylinders swiveled 180 degrees or 360, and they are supposed to act as like gravity amplifiers. So it's all like, it's kind of engineer, whatever. I'm like,
Right? Just like I don't understand how those magnetic bullet trains in like Japan work. And I'm like,
the
God,
what?
you guys are genius. Those like magnetic bullet trains in like Japan and
Oh,
China. Like I don't understand how those work, but you guys are geniuses.
I know, and yet every day we take for granted that we have all this like wireless technology that just like floats through the air, and oh my God,
Yeah.
I've been kind of falling down half rabbit holes lately about that. So don't get me started. But
Didn't you hear the COVID vaccination's going to turn me into a Wi-Fi hotspot?
oh, right, because it's all caused by 5G, right?
Yeah, I'm going to be a Wi-Fi hotspot.
Oh my God, I'm a cell tower.
I'm my own cell tower. Yeah, I can contact TELUS, cancel my phone plan, and contact Shaw and cancel my internet because I'm a hotspot.
Okay. Well, I don't want to turn into an advertisement for Shaw, but we switched over to them because they were like free, cell service because you already pay for internet with us. And since then,
Okay.
so I ended my contract with Virgin, and since then Virgin sent me like a check. I think I overpaid them like $12 because they sent me a check for like $12. I was like,
Oh wow.
what did I do?
Nice.
First I was like, did I pay you guys out like what I owed you? Whatever. Anyway, I digress. Okay. Andrew Basiago. No, I mean, okay, we're talking about Bob Lazar and I get so confused when he talks about the
anti-gravity
ships. Yes, but also my next point was that he admits he was only given need to know information, possibly, contributing to my confusion. Who knows? But it's like each department was only given the information they needed to know, right? So
that sounds like the government.
Yes, exactly.
Or
It's
the
like
military.
figure out how this part of this vehicle works, but like don't try and ask about how the rest of it works. And like basically from what I could glean about him, he was like, as a scientist, like, no, that's not how it works. And I was like, fair enough. Science is about sharing information and
This is a team assignment.
Exactly. It's about building on these insights. Oh, it's craziness. Such an interesting story, though. So yeah, he only knows about the part of the ship and or ships he's been assigned to. He described the flying technology basically that we see today in those videos that have been released by the Navy, just the way that whenever someone sees UFOs, that they can just go up, down, side to side momentarily without seeming to require any thrust, propulsion, any of the laws of aerodynamics or whatever. They're just like a little laser pointer. So yeah, and it's like now we're seeing videos where like, and even the Navy's confirming them, like, yeah, those are real videos. But basically people are like, I don't give a shit because, COVID and whatever.
Yeah. But
as we say this in 2021, because we are coming down with the pandemic, but it's basically always been a tradition for people to ignore things that are factual if they're uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So, okay, here's where I get to that. So he says there were 9 craft in total that they were trying to recreate. They were basically like in this big airport hangar room, like you would expect to see like a bunch of airplanes in or whatever.
Yeah.
He dubbed the one that he worked on the sport model, which I thought was cute.
Low
What? Yeah.
I just went low rider.
Oh my God, A Knight's Tale. Ah! I love that movie. And yeah, I just basically jotted down. I was like, oh yeah, mention that his story hasn't changed in the 30 plus years that he's been interviewed.
Yeah, that's important.
It is, for sure. To give a bit of his backstory, he was hired for a job at, I guess, EG&G, Echo Golf and Golf, formerly known as Edgerton, Germahausen and Greer Inc. And he was a United States national defense contractor. And when he was being interviewed for the position, position of physicist at EG&G, they did talk about UFO technology, but he thought it was bait to see if he would leak to the press because he
Oh,
was
okay.
used to that sort of thing. Yeah, so that was kind of cool. He was like, I'm kind of used to jobs being like, oh, we're so top secret that like we're gonna put this stuff in to actually see if you are a gossiper or something.
That's fair.
Yeah, it's like, okay. Um and I guess he was kind of just like whatever. So he kind of dismissed anything that talked about aliens on his like application or whatever.
Okay, because
Um
he thought that was just part of it.
yeah, he kind of thought it was just make believe.
Yeah.
And to be honest, my mom worked for a company like picture like a building supply company, Rona, Home Depot, whatever, that kind of thing. And they're like, have you ever used cocaine before coming to work? It's just like sometimes you're like, what? What kind of people do you hire? No.
Is this a trick question?
I know. Like, no. What about Bab? No, that's how they
Yeah.
say it. You ever watch that 70s show?
Mm, I tried to. I didn't get into it.
Fair. Pat obviously likes it because it's more his era of growing upness.
Yeah.
But that's how Bab, their neighbor, says it. Like they're in the Wisconsin, right? So it's Midwest. It's that whole
Oh.
Bab would be like, nice pap. Um, so Bob and Carol moved to Nevada so that he could be on call there, for EG&G or no, right? I'm sorry.
I
He's
think
like
so.
he's working at S4 now, which is a part of Area 51. So he would get a phone call at any time of the day or night, and he'd have to like drop everything, get on a little plane at the Vegas McCarran Airport, and take like a little commuter flight to the Area 51 base. And then for most stuff I read, it was like blacked out windows on the buses and stuff, and it was really secretive even on the way there.
That's
Um,
crazy.
yeah, like they're working hard. Keep them kind of in the dark and definitely suppress any thoughts of wanting to talk about it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he and like other scientists and military personnel would be driven out to S4, and it was just hours away from any other town by car. So, the first time he got in the big ass airplane hangar sized garage or whatever they were keeping all these things in, he passed by one UFO craft and it like had a little American flag on it. And so he basically thought to himself, like, that's a military plane that looks like a UFO. So holy
Yeah.
shit, that's like what people have been mistaking for alien ships. Like they're just US military craft that are top secret.
Yeah. Just they look different, I guess, than what they typically do.
What's that?
They just look different than what they typically do.
Like they don't all look like saucers, you mean?
No, like I mean, like, so he realizes that some American aircrafts or whatever look like UFOs.
No, it is a UFO, but
Oh, okay.
they had like for some reason put their little American flag sticker on it or something.
Oh, okay.
Maybe. Yeah, that's how I interpret it as because like as soon as he touches it, they get really pissed off because this is like this precious thing that they're trying to analyze and like he just like puts his hand on it and grazes it as he walks by and they're like, the hell are you doing? Like, stop that, sanitize your hands. Like, really mad at him. So they're
Wow.
like, they're really concerned about, showing these craft to anybody. Like, he says that he never learns how they got any of them. Like, they wouldn't even tell him any of that stuff. They're basically like, you just need to work on how this works and
Wow.
recreate it for us. Yeah. Mm. I wrote, he grazed it as he went by. Shiny.
Ooh.
I mean, I would
Yeah.
be the same.
Just like when you walk across um like a car or anything like that that's really shiny, you like try and look at
Oh,
yourself in the reflection or just like, oh look.
exactly. Well, I have this written somewhere, but he does start referring to the one that he has to work on as the sport model. It must be very sleek.
Yeah.
Hmm. Um, and the cockpit of the vehicle looked like it was built to hold someone about half of Bob's height himself. And he's like, oh, I think I heard him say he's like 5'10", almost 6 foot. He's close to 6 feet.
Oh wow. So like
Yeah,
really small cockpit then.
right. So the person would have to be like 3-ish feet tall or something
Yeah.
like that.
Wow.
Um, there was also something about, I just kind of thought this was interesting, like an odd metallic sphere that they were trying to figure out how it was used to help propel the ship. Um, Especially, I remember that I was listening to something. They found a really odd metallic sphere somewhere. I was listening to a episode of Drinking the Kool-Aid podcast on it. They also have an episode of their Patreon where one of them talks about Bob Lazar, and I listened to it, and it was good. It was good help for this episode. Thank you,
Yeah.
ladies. It's when I joined your Patreon. Yeah, it's as if they'll ever join ours. I don't know. You
Maybe.
never know. Um, So, oh yeah, so the cool thing about that one was like they just found this metallic sphere somewhere, and like all these companies that, manufactured possible things that it could have been were like, well, no, those don't fit our specs or whatever, not the same size. And then like it would act weirdly. Like one time they were like, oh yeah, we should go take it for some testing or something, and they started to move toward the door, and it started rolling across the table toward them as if like, don't forget me.
Oh wow.
Like this flat table or something. Yeah. Like
Like
it was
a pet
complete.
dog. Take me with you.
Yes. And that episode, their episode on the metallic sphere, that's not on their Patreon. So like you can listen to it for free. It was weird. I was like, what the fuck?
That's
But
crazy.
anyway, maybe it had something to do with alien craft technology. I don't know. I don't know. Um, so yes, this is maybe where Uh, it's actually relevant to the story, but Bob's wife starts to complain that she thinks he's cheating on her. Like she starts to get kind of suspicious, and he's like, "What the hell?" Because he's not.
No.
And
Just
then,
like aliens.
well, yeah, it is
Except
funny. Aliens is often the yeah.
I'm sure he can't tell her it's aliens.
I mean, I guess you would know that he's working on something top secret, but that's probably it. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. So he does notice that he's being followed around um, at this time. Like he keeps spotting people tailing him. Um, and he thinks, well, I pissed them off somehow, probably. And they're either going to, like, A, fire him, or B, fire him, then kill him.
Yeah. They've sent the men in black after him.
Yes, on Drinking the Kool-Aid pod, they'll be like, they're just gonna boop him out of existence.
Yeah.
Which is funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Men in Black. That was interesting. Um, so he starts to think about his safety, a safety net, like would happen if he does mysteriously disappear, what would happen to his information, etc. And so he told some of his friends about his job and what had been going on. Not his wife, but he did tell some buddies.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I'd be kind of pissed at her. And that's part of what sucks about his story too, is that like some of this like really personal stuff has to come to light in talking about his case. All the more
Yeah.
reason why he doesn't want to talk about it, you know? Like, nobody wants to go through anything personal in public, but anyway, we'll
Yeah.
get to it.
You don't want to talk about accusations of your wife thinking you're cheating on her.
Or worse.
Yeah.
So he drove um to the Esport area. So that's, I don't know, I got a little confused because I remember I said earlier that I thought he was like shielded when he was taken there, but he did seem to know how to get to where they were doing some test flights that were happening in the desert. So he took some friends out there to show them that they were doing these test flights with these probably these UFOs or whatever, and they did it at nighttime, and he was successful a couple of times, but then one time the guards that were like literally watching them in the dark away from like a couple of feet away from their car like dropped his flashlight or something and rolled over towards them, and then they knew oh yeah, they're caught. They know we're like sitting here with Bob and his friends just watching the test flight.
Oh my gosh. What happened?
Um, so yeah, they caught them. They're like, friends, go away. They took Bob inside and they sat him down and they're like, listen, we have to have a talk.
Yeah. Wow. I'm surprised he didn't just disappear off the face of the earth then at that moment.
Well, I guess it was a good thing Bob had some friends with him. Maybe.
Yeah.
So they informed him that his wife was the one having the affair. Dun dun dun.
Oh wow. I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah. Actually, I was gonna say something earlier about how sometimes people project, like they start being suspicious because they're the ones actually that are having, doing what they're not
Yeah.
supposed to. And I was like, no, I
Wow.
shouldn't say that. So yeah. Yeah, so with, I don't know, a coworker or a friend, acquaintance, whatever, his wife's having an affair, they have tapped their phones and stuff, so that's how they know this, basically. And they were worried that when he found out he might snap. That's
Oh, okay.
apparently their biggest concern. Yeah, that's what they told him. So they played their recorded audio evidence from phone calls of like, wife and, Mr. on the side talking sexy talk. So that sucks. Like, that's shitty. And they didn't divorce right away, but I think they did separate, probably.
Yeah, that's
That,
fair.
yeah, because I do know later that like he does get remarried. Because I was of course nosy enough to be like, is he still with this one? And then like he's with a wife on the he's with a lovely wife on the Netflix documentary, but it's not Carol.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's what I needed to know for myself.
Yeah, we need the full story here.
hmm Yeah. Uh, gotta have the hot sauce. So he thinks, okay, I probably need some more insurance because I still don't trust these guys, and that doesn't really make me feel better that they were just watching me to see if I would snap.
Yeah. Wow.
I don't know. So that brings us to his like original whistleblower, interview that shocked the nation in May of 1989.
he at this point was like doing the anonymous thing where they like black them out in the video, and like he called himself Dennis, but it was his real voice. Actually, Pat just found some video up with like some of the original footage like yesterday and was like, "Oh yeah, you should watch this." And I was like, "Okay." And then I'm like
Wow.
spilling tidbits at him, and he's like, "Oh." I'm like, "Yeah, I've researched it, of course. Like, I know."
Yeah.
So he gave this interview to a reporter named George Knapp, and he had talked to Knapp about it. And then Knapp was the one who encouraged Bob to get it on tape so that they would have a record of it. So he had to be like encouraged and coaxed to like tape it and then to actually eventually put it on TV because he really wasn't into that idea.
Oh, okay.
Pardon me. And oh yeah, and they were like one of the original interviews, and afterwards, just sitting with his co-anchors, and this is 1989, and the lady in her blue suit is like, "Oh, do you believe George?" And I don't know, she looks like so like she's gonna, get him to say something embarrassing. I don't know, she just looks really eager for some reason. Do you
Yeah.
believe him? And he's kind of just like, yeah, I've been talking to him for a few months now, and I gotta say, I do. And so she just seems like, all right, that's a wrap, folks. Like, she didn't know what else
Oh,
to say. Like, there you
wow.
go. So yeah, he said, yes, I do believe him. Oh yeah, so Bob has said very many times, like I say, that he doesn't even like to talk about it. And can you blame him? He says, it hasn't helped me out, which I'm like, fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Bob talked about the 9 UFOs, or the 9 different unidentified craft that they had there. So he only got to work on one, but he did see all 9, which is so cool. So I think they were different shapes.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
So cool. And then now this was too cool for people's minds in the 80s. He talked about biometrics. As it was a scanning technology, you put your hand into this like box looking metal instrument that had a light above it and like a sensor below it, and it measured the length of your finger bone as a means of like it was a scanning a device to identify you so you could like get to work or whatever, get into that room. But people at the time was like, that's nonsense.
Oh, weird. So it wasn't like a fingerprint scanner or anything. It was scanning your
No.
finger bone?
Yes, it measures the finger bones exactly. I mean, but exactly
Wow.
nowadays we have all sorts of things to even at least associate with it, like fingerprint scanning. Like I have that on my phone, like
Well, for my mom's work, she has to scan her fingerprint to punch in and out at work.
oh,
Like,
cool. It's become a
yeah.
lot more mundane and everyday
Yeah.
for for these kind of things. And like that's the other thing. So that technology does exist now. So it's like, I don't know, it's something like, what do I have here? It's like a light that shone through, like, I think of like an X-ray, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I'm like, so they do have this technology today, and so that's kind of one way he's been corroborated or whatever. So that's cool.
I just think
I'll
in
put a
my head,
picture.
like, how unique could the measurement of a finger bone be? That's what
Oh,
I'm getting at. That's why
up,
I'm
oh,
confused.
apparently it is.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember reading that. I don't think I have that written here, but apparently it is pretty unique. I don't know, man.
Interesting.
It is. No, I did find pictures of the box that he described, and then the like the boxes that exist now, I guess. There's a picture I found. And we talked about there's a freaking documentary, like watch the Area 51. I like that on Netflix. That was good too. That was like probably maybe if everybody doesn't feel like watching 3 hours or whatever on Joe Rogan, but that it's so in depth. I don't know. I like listening to him talk. He's just like your uncle. Did you watch the Friends reunion and see how they're like talking about Joey, how he looks like your like, I don't know, Irish uncle who'd like just tell you stories all night long because he just always looks so genial and smiling and
Yeah.
like
I
in the
haven't
Friends
watched it yet.
reunion. What?
I haven't watched it yet.
We've been rewatching the whole series.
Yeah.
So, non-UFOs and a hand technology. No.
I was just gonna do that. I was like,
Oh, and 4 polygraph tests. He has passed. I don't know why that was next. Oh, because I read one thing, or maybe it was like a thread on Reddit or something that was like, he's probably an actor. He's probably an actor paid by somebody. And I was like, what? I don't know. That's crazier than UFOs.
yeah,
I don't know. To
who's
me,
paying
like,
him?
right? To what end? To what purpose? So yeah, now we know we have biometrics all over, like facial recognition, fingerprint sensors. He also talked about an element called element 115, which at the time was an unknown element. And it is described as a, quote, possible source of anti-gravitational propulsion. And it didn't exist on the periodic table. Can you hear that? That was
Yeah.
Pat fucking
Oh,
cackling.
no. No, I didn't
Sorry.
hear. I didn't
Never
hear
mind
anything
then.
in the background.
He was just like, oh my god, he's playing with his friends.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so element 115, it's an enigma of sorts. It was only added to the periodic table in 2016. So, way after this first time that Bob talked about it in 1989.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool.
I wonder how often elements have had to be added to the periodic table.
I know, it seems like we're getting up there in numbers, right?
Yeah.
115.
How often, I wonder, does that actually happen? That they're like, we've discovered something new. Is it like once every
Right,
like
because we're
50 years or something?
Yeah, as everything dwindles more down, it's like you discover less and less, or fewer and fewer animal species and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's an enigma of sorts, this element 115. It was only added to the periodic table in 2016, yet for decades it has attracted extra attention because of a supposed connection to extraterrestrial technology and alien life forms. I have a bunch here, sorry, that's from science.howstuffworks because, hello, I needed help trying to talk about element 115.
That's fair.
Listen, this almost sounds like out of Marvel. Element 115, or Moscovium. Sorry.
Is this
That's
what's the element from
vibranium.
yeah.
Yeah. But also, wait, that town in the Civil War, Captain America's Civil War, they like destroy a town and it's called Sokovia. So this thing's called element 115 or Moscovium. But
Oh,
and the reason is, as we're about to learn, is it has to do with Moscow.
I was
So
just
it is
gonna
kind
say,
of Russian. Sorry.
no, I was
Oh.
just gonna say, oh, did it have to do with Moscow? Mosconian.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a man-made super heavy element that has 115 protons in its nucleus. It's an extremely rare element that made one atom at a time in particle accelerators. It exists for just a fraction of a section. It exists for just a fraction of a second before it decays into another element. So that
Oh.
means it is, yeah, it's quote impossible to synthesize an element that heavy here on Earth. The substance has to come from a place where super heavy elements could have been produced naturally. That's what Bob said. And
Oh,
then
that's
on,
crazy.
and it's even crazier. It says, oh, wait, for decades. Oh, sorry. I was just confused because I said it was added to the periodic table in 2016, but it was discovered in 2003 in Dubna, Russia, at the Flerov Laboratory for Nuclear Reactions by a group of scientists led by nuclear physicist Yuri Oganesian or something like that. I'm sorry. Um, the element was eventually named moscovium because Dubna is in Moscow. So yeah, that's cool. And then as a side note to that, Bob might have taken a little bit when he left, and that's probably why he got in so much trouble.
Oh, I'm gonna take this.
Bad Bob. Yeah, they don't like that. It was like a friend of ours. I remember Pat giving him shit because he may or may not have been like, oh, I took a little bit of C4 from the base, and that's like an explosive. And Pat was like, that is not funny.
Yeah, no.
Names redacted from that story. So, uh, he, Bob also says that TV depicts the way UFOs flying seems to be wrong from what he's worked on because like those propulsion cylinders that he talked about are on the bottom propelling like the UFO upward or whatever when you see it on TV. But he says they would actually point toward the direction that the craft would want to fly instead. Pardon
Oh, okay.
me. So it's just we just didn't understand how they work because we just see them like zipping around on our radar and stuff in ways that we don't think they should be able to. And we're like,
Yeah.
what? I guess that's the front of it. Yeah.
I always just
What's
kind of
the
assumed, I guess, that like that bottom part would, I guess, like rotate in like any direction so that they could just like suddenly change directions and stuff without having to like bank or anything like that.
it's just so incomprehensible, right? We're just like, no, gravity is like you should need to stop before you can make up enough inertia to go again. But they're like a
Yeah.
laser pointer, they're just like zip, 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 zop.
Yeah, or have like a off balance thing, how they say, what is it? I think like cheetahs or something when they run, when they want to suddenly change direction, they have to fling their tail or something to counterbalance
Oh,
them. It's like crazy.
weird, like a rudder on a ship or
Yeah.
a boat. That's crazy.
Yeah, they'll like shoot their
Um,
tail out the opposite direction and it like swings their lower part of the body so that they can turn faster. Like crazy.
that
Yeah.
was my sound effect.
Boom,
Um, this one's just sort of a fun fact. The only thing he was told about or learned about that where the craft came from was that they came from the Zeta Reticuli star system, which is 39.17 light years away, if you'd like to know.
boom.
But
Good to know.
that's all. Yeah, they wouldn't tell him anything else. I think I'll mention it later on, but like maybe he overheard something once, like a snippet, obviously, but it was like, oh, archaeological dig. Like one might have been discovered in some sort of like ancient archaeological dig, which is just like, what?
Ooh.
Okay. That's
Or
crazy if so. But
swinging
he didn't know
back
what.
to Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls. I used to be
Oh my
obsessed with
God.
the whole crystal skull thing when I was younger, like
That's
heavily obsessed
fascinating.
with it.
Oh, really? That's
Yeah,
a
like
pretty
the
cool one.
actual, well, not necessarily like the Indiana Jones movie, but the actual, like,
Mhm.
real crystal skulls. I used to watch documentaries about them. I'd Google pictures of them. I collected crystal skulls because of them. Like, I was obsessed with them.
One of those fascinating things, like the Easter Island heads, or just. I
Yeah.
was reading crazy stuff about how there's probably a hall of records inside the Sphinx, but that like the main archaeologist doesn't like want to share. I was like, what the fuck? Share that shit,
Oh,
bitch.
oh
I
yeah,
don't know. Yeah.
that kind of stuff would make sense. I mean,
Yeah. Oh,
they
I suppose
they had to store stuff
suppose
somewhere.
yes. And then I think I was probably on a conspiracy theory thing on Reddit or something, and they were like, well, it might be because it has information about Atlantis and shit like that. And I was like, oh, even better.
That would be
Probably.
the last place I would expect there to be information about Atlantis would be in Egypt, where it's desert.
I know, just on a general principle, right? So of course,
Yeah,
but like it does make sense. Like the Egyptians were the shit, and they got some help from the aliens, obviously.
I love Egyptians. They're amazing.
Oh my God, we have so many subjects we should cover.
Yeah, we should definitely do one about like different pharaohs and stuff and their lives. I'm sure there's plenty
Basically,
of
everything.
murders.
I was gonna say everything is just like an alien like mini series because it's like ancient aliens, but for our podcast, it's like this thing
Yeah,
and how it could be related to aliens.
yeah.
Yeah. Um. So of course, so this is my section on skeptics. So, of course, Lazar has been subject to a ton of scrutiny, attempts to discredit him, numerous FBI raids, slander, and even some charges for just some petty little crimes. He's just been in the hot seat ever since, poor guy. Um, so people say that he didn't go to Caltech, the very prestigious school in California. Uh, but like people like friends of his remember driving him and stuff, but like he has no records there. It's like he's been canceled and erased from there. And in
Okay.
fact, yeah, further to that, no records other like for his education other than his high school records exist now. And skeptics say that he must have falsified his education claims because, you know, surely he'd be working at S4 or a place like that with a high school education, but there's no records
Yeah.
of his education now. It's just
Or
weird.
that the government wouldn't have retaliated for him, like, talking about aliens for how many years and be like, we're going to discredit him by erasing his education.
I know, exactly. They have a complete motive
Like,
for, and
ugh.
there's no record of him working at S4 or the EG&G company, but he was listed in the phone book under the one of those EG&G. S4 wouldn't be in the phone book. I'm sorry. That's there's too
Sorry.
exactly right. It's like the Pentagon's like in the phone book.
Yeah.
But like,
Lieutenant
yeah,
so
they
and so.
it's like they're saying he doesn't work there, but like, yeah, he's in the phone book and shit. And people were like, damn it, we didn't think anyone would look back at a fucking phone book.
Oh my God.
Right. So, oh yeah, and then I talked about the petty crimes. So that actually, because I'm not gonna, skeptics are probably gonna bring up anything they can find in his history that might be considered bad. And
Yeah.
this was, yeah, technically a charge of pandering, which is something that was apparently reduced from a charge of aiding and abetting a prostitution ring, which, does sound kind of bad on paper. As was pointed out, not by me first, but like this was not illegal in Nevada. I had heard that on when I listened to the episode of the Drinking the Kool-Aid. So I looked it up. Prostitution and solicitation are illegal in 10 of Nevada's 16, or are legal, rather. So prostitution, solicitation are legal in 10 of Nevada's 16 counties. And
Yeah.
even in yeah, even, oh, this doesn't make sense because I wrote it. I must have changed it. Even in this counties, no, even in these counties, it can only take place within officially licensed brothels. So essentially, they got him on a technicality because he and his wife were helping out some friends or acquaintances or whatever, and like it, they got it on like being not a licensed brothel or some shit like that. It was like probably if it was someone else, they wouldn't have charged them, but because it was Bob, they're like,
Yeah.
oh, Bob. So,
Lab.
Bob took reporter George Knapp to S4 and walked in with no credentials shown or anything. People waved to him there. So, like, there was lots of evidence to show that he did work there.
Yeah. Not
And
just, who are you? Get down.
exactly. And us believers shoot back with the facts like his story has never wavered after all this time, that's pretty cool. Okay.
Yeah.
That scream laughing.
Oh, I couldn't hear anything.
It's worse than Janice. No Janice.
Yeah.
All right. Oh my God. So, the Netflix special is called Area 51 and Flying Saucers. Fun fact, it is narrated by Mickey Rourke. You know? Mickey?
It sounds familiar, but I can't place them.
I thought I was like, remembered like quickly checking his IMDb because I was like, I might have to remind Kelsey who Mickey Rourke is because like he hasn't acted in a lot of stuff for a while. And also I don't think he watched all the Marvel because he was in like one of the Spider-Man movies not too long ago. Fuck.
Oh, okay.
Wow. I'm like really wanting to Google something right now because I'm like, I know you'd probably know some stuff. He was in a movie called The Wrestler, but that was like his career's been like because he got a lot of like plastic surgery and his face looks a lot different now than it used to and shit like that.
Oh, weird.
Yeah. Like one of those movie heroes from like the 80s kind of thing. But yeah, it was directed by this guy that's named Jeremy Kenyon Lockyer Corbel. He's on he's on the podcast when Joe Rogan has Bob Lazar on, like because he's been working with Bob for a while and like researching him, like he's I don't know, like Bob's like almost right hand man because he's like, Bob doesn't want to do any press, and then he'll be like, but man, you should go on Joe Rogan, like it'll make things better. And like he says on the episode, he's like, no, I told you, it'll just make things worse. Like he's just very like, I love him. He just seems so like down to earth and like relatable. You're like, same. I would probably be the same. Like this
I
shit
don't
isn't gonna
want
help.
to be here.
Yeah, I'm happy. Okay. So the Netflix special by this Jeremy guy and with Bob, you get to meet his now lovely wife, Joy, and see their beautiful home. I loved his little coffee cup. It looks like a scientific like beaker with all these measurements on the side. It's like this glass coffee mug.
I love
Like
that.
you're so nerdy.
It's cute.
Yeah. And like just important to note that with his friends, wife, family, loved ones, obviously his story doesn't waver. He's, obviously always just been like, no, like this is just me. And his wife says, like, in the Netflix special, she's just like, yeah, it's just really sad. They just don't know Bob. Like, it's just, yeah. Kind of like if they knew him, like they would probably believe him.
Yeah.
And he talks about how he had this toy that had been deemed like the most dangerous toy in the world when he was a child. It was not just a chemistry set, it was a 1950s radioactive science kit.
Oh, wow.
So, like, yeah, like, I don't know. I don't understand radioactivity, but I'm guessing it wouldn't have been safe in every kid's hands.
No, just like straight from Chernobyl.
Yeah.
Build your own
This is
nuclear reactor and
yeah,
power
this
your
is a toy
home.
from 1950s Russia.
Yeah. Wow.
And he's like, it's billed as the most dangerous toy, but that was just people's fear. It sounds like Hagrid when he gets a pet dragon or something. He's like, no, they're so cute though. You just gotta know how to manage them.
This nuclear toy is just misunderstood.
Yeah, it's only a make your own atomic bomb kit. No, I'm just kidding. um, oh, that's funny. Didn't we already talk about the father of the atomic bomb? Because he met him, and that's like how he gets the job,
Yeah.
basically. Okay, so that flying technology that he spoke about at the time has been featured on several videos now. There's been at least 3 released and confirmed by the Navy at this point as we record this in 2021.
Yep.
And a Commander Fravor was one of the military personnel to witness one of these incidents. He talked about how the UFO zipped to where they were going to fly next and was there before he even knew where he was going next. They're real fast.
Yeah.
And then more about aliens and the government was in 2017, the New York Times printed a piece that would have been quite sensational. It was highlighting a shadowy project called the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. And this had actually started in the US in 2007, which is 13 years old now, because that's when Rain was born. Almost
Yeah.
14.
I was gonna say almost 14.
Exactly.
We're almost halfway through the year already. It's crazy.
Oh,
We're almost halfway through 2021 already. Ugh.
whoop, whoop. Thank God, because I heard everything's in retrograde for the rest of the year. And I was like, what the fuck? Anyway, their goal, this threat identification program, was to investigate UFOs, but like seemingly every other time aliens come to the forefront of the news, like, the New York Times talking about it, something else comes along or people dismiss it. So, I don't know. That was 2017, but whatever. That's just after Trump got elected. I don't know. Then they announced
Yeah.
stuff like right before COVID happened. It's like there's always something. And oh yes, so the first reporter that he talks to, George Knapp, basically says like it's the secret that's been let out again and again all the time over the years, but no one believes it when it is. So it's the best kept secret.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
I guess well, like we had talked about the cases and stuff that they started talking about of like UFOs and aliens like 70 years ago. So for like 70 years, people have been talking about it.
Yeah. And probably seeing it for longer, but a lot of it is just misinterpreted. Like they'll talk about on Ancient Aliens how like halos and things just and things that are depicted like look a lot like spacesuits. And they're
Yeah.
super old. Yeah, it's just crazy. I only have about a quote left, and I had a little bit about like I said, I got nosy and like I looked up how many times like I looked up to see if he was still married to the same woman, and then I found out that like no, he was married like 3 times, but that was just me being nosy. And then that like that wife, that first wife, well, I hadn't heard this anywhere, but that one that was cheating on him or whatever, like she actually committed suicide. Like she's dead now. I didn't know
Oh, that's
that
awful.
before I researched this. Yeah. And it was like right after he got married to his second wife. It was kind of weird. But again, I don't want to like just be prying into someone's life and be like, ooh, what does that mean? I'm like, whatever. It's
Yeah.
your life. And they were separated, I think, for like a long time before that.
Yeah.
But I do have my favorite quote just from listening to him on this was when he was on Joe Rogan was I hate like they were like oh yeah, people ask me all the time like if I do this for attention, and he's like, I hate fucking attention. I don't like, and he's like laughing like when he says it a little bit. He's like, I don't like being on shows. I just want to hide in the corner and do my own thing. I got enough hugs as a kid. I don't need attention.
I like that. I got enough
I know
hugs as a kid.
he's like basically like, no, I'm well adjusted.
Yeah.
I'm not crazy. So it's yeah, it's very
Yeah.
interesting.
That's
Case.
crazy. I'm
Yeah.
gonna have to watch that Netflix documentary, as everybody else should.
Yes, you should. And then just like come back to me and tell me, and you're like tell me you don't want to like hang out and have a beer with that guy and just be like you seem like cool, like he's like just such like a dad. I don't know. Like well, my dad's like a civil engineer. Like I'm like, oh, you're nerdy. You're just like a
Yeah.
I don't know. Very
Perfect.
he's a cool guy.
Yeah.
So yeah. Oh, this stuff is fun. I can't wait to do our next one.
Yeah. There's
Oh my
a
God.
lot you can do about aliens.
Yeah, and it's really fun when you find ones that are really like, yeah, credible sounding. So many eyewitnesses like yours. That was crazy. I was telling Pat about that
Yeah.
today a little bit because I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, when I
Yeah.
was researching them, I literally found a Wikipedia page that listed every single UFO encounter that was like publicized. And there
Oh
was
my
like
God.
4 pages, and it was in alphabet. It was in order by like date and what happened, who was injured, like where it was located,
Ooh.
and like a little like 2 sentence blurb about every single one of them. And when I saw that one, and it was like, yeah, it took place in an airport, and the like Air Force corroborated it, and the airport corroborated it, and the passenger, like the flight crew corroborated it, and the
Oh,
passengers corroborated it,
yeah.
and I was like, oh my God. Like,
Totally. Or you'll hear one
yeah.
where like the whole city of Phoenix one time saw a bunch of weird lights for hours, like hours and
Yeah.
hours. And you're like, how can you just, I don't know, play that off?
Yeah.
Crazy. Oh my God. Yeah, we might have to call our like we got this whole declassified series that we're doing now. Currently I have this one titled on our anchor as Declassy Aliens or something like that. Because I was just like writing down declassified every time is annoying. So we might
Yeah.
we might just keep adding to our declassy series again and again
Yeah.
and again.
I'm like,
Yeah.
on the website, I think we had talked about at first naming this one Area like 420 as a play on Area 51.
That's true. Yeah.
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 We'll think of
Yeah,
something.
that
It'll be up there.
declassy Area 51.
Yeah, that works good.
Nice. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And
Well, thank
so,
you all for listening. We
yeah,
appreciate you.
catch us next regular episode for haunted houses, I believe.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for
Catch you next
listening.
week. Thanks for listening.
Next Patreon.
Yeah.
Oh, but did I say outro? I know I've been calling them cryptic cuties for a while in my posts
Oh,
and
okay.
stuff. And then shit, I thought I had something like about that, like keep your cryptic cryptids. I don't know. I feel like I had like okay, so like for example, we can cut this out if we need to, but on drinking the Kool-Aid, they'll be like, keep your front door locked, keep your mind open and keep drinking the Kool-Aid. It's like one of those like I thought I had something like similar to that I had been rolling around in my head. Like
Oh,
your
nothing that you told me about.
no, keep your
No.
cryptids cute. I mean, I know we have our intro. I don't know. All right, I'll see if I wrote it down somewhere. Or maybe I'm just having a fever dream again.
I think the only thing you had said was maybe like keep it cryptid. I think that you might have
Yeah,
said once.
I mean, I've been like, yeah, cryptic cuties. Keep it cryptic. That's fucking hard to say though.
Yeah, that's what you said last time.
All right, it's a work in progress.
Yeah, we'll
Just
figure
like
out
us.
something cute.
All right. Till next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
This has been Castles and Cryptids. You can listen to our podcasts on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Anchor, Breaker, and Pocket Casts. Our episodes are also uploaded to our YouTube channel. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook. And don't forget to check out our Patreon page to view all of our tiers. Become a Patreon supporter today to unlock monthly bonus episodes and behind-the-scenes content. You can also take our poll and let us know what kind of bonus content you'd like to see in the future. On our website, you can listen to all of our episodes, as well as view pictures for each of our segments. Our music is by Kobe Off Air. Thanks for listening.